Dr. Quinn here, and today we're going to be going over the importance of having a properly set up workstation when it comes to ergonomics as well as posture. Now, a lot of us think, I don't sit that much, right? I'm up and I'm moving around, or I work outside all day, or I do all of these things, but over the last 30, 40, or 50 years, we've started to see jobs go really from more active daily work to where we're moving our bodies more, we're standing, we're walking, to being more sedentary. Now, what we're seeing over time is the position you're putting your body in the most is becoming your new normal. We sit almost 90% of our day and we don't even realize it. So we're seeing more and more back pain and neck pain and thyroid issues, and we're starting to see function drop starting to come up more and more. And the underlying cause of these issues is, again, it comes down to posture and what we're doing all day long. So creating workstations are going to allow you to be more mobile, to have a better posture, help your spine and your nervous system be more resilient, give you more energy, as well as function better. We can actually start changing the overall health outcomes when we start to address sitting all day long. So I'm going to be giving you the kind of gold standard if you have to sit. And then also we're going to be going over what a standing workstation looks like too. And so we're going to be going over both setups and giving you some strategies and some nuances to how do we make sure that this fits for you. So that way you feel better, you have more energy, you're more healthy, and then you're getting the most out of your day. So you don't start to see degeneration and spinal cord issues becoming a big prominent part of your life. So one of the most common postures that I see at a workstation is when we have just your standard desk. We have a standard monitor that's at the standard height that it came out of the box, and then everything is here. So as you work, what we notice is by the end of the day, we have our head very far forward. We see the thoracic or the mid back is very rounded, and we tend to be reaching a lot. And then we see everything that is out here. So we see this posture. What this does is that forward head posture puts pressure on your spinal cord. It creates degeneration in your lower cervical spine, puts pressure on your brain stem. So everything that goes up into the head creates forward rolled shoulders, which creates an impingement and puts your shoulders at risk of injury when you actually do exercise. And then we start to see things start to roll forward here and creates this rounded back posture. So let's talk about the office chair. So we are sitting throughout the day, or we're doing a combination of sitting and standing. We want to make sure that this is set up correctly. First thing we want to look at when we're setting your chair up is we want to make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. So we want to make sure that those are planted. Your quads or your thighs should be parallel to the floor or a little bit lower. So we don't want to be a lot lower, but maybe 10 to 15 degrees is very okay. From there, we want your glutes all the way in the back of the chair. Something to look for, you need 3 inches between the front of your chair and the back of your knees. If your knees are jamming into this, it's not a good chair for you. And then you have to do things to adjust and try to get your back into it. From there, elbow rests. We don't want your elbow rests pushing your shoulders up. So what we want to look for is where there's room for them to set if you really want to lean or take a break, but we don't want them pushing up. So I like them nice and low, and that'll also give you more room to get underneath your desk. In the very back, we want it as upright as you can. If you have an adjustable lumbar support, you want to make sure that it's as supportive as you can get. So what we don't want to see is where we see you melting into your chair as the day goes on, and we see this flexion in your lumbar spine and your pelvis. That's what we want to avoid. So we want to ensure we have something that's promoting you here. The other thing that some chairs you can adjust on is the tilt of the very bottom of this chair. So we want that to be parallel. If you're having trouble where you are getting tired at the end of the day, try tipping it forward some. That's going to help promote a good lumbar curve and get you to sitting up better. So these are some quick and dirty ways to get your chair set up so that it's going to adapt to your workstation the best. Let's talk about the monitor. If there is one thing that I can change on a workstation, it is going to be the monitor first and foremost. This is the most important part of your workstation setup because it affects your posture the most. So when we look at the monitor, your eyes should be at the middle or about 15 degrees above horizontal when we look at the middle of the screen. So this one may be just a touch low for me. I'm 6'2", so I'm pretty tall. But when we're looking at that, we want to be able to see this. Now, why this is important is when you get above that horizontal level, it gets rid of the tension in the back of your neck and allows your ears to come back over your shoulders. So what happens a lot of times when we have the monitor too low or we have a laptop is we see things starting to go this way because of where you're looking. So if we're looking down, our head's drifting this way. If we're looking straight ahead or up just a touch, our head has a chance to stay back and we don't get that bad forward head posture. So when it comes to making adjustments to your monitor height, there are several options out there. One of the most simple ones I like is just getting a monitor riser. So this is what we have. You can get this anywhere online, box stores. You're going to have these available. They're not expensive, but this is an easy, simple way that's going to help get everything up. You can get them in all the styles you want to fit whatever style of office you have. So that's an easy way. One of the things I really do promote, especially if you have multiple monitors that you're having to deal with, is they make monitor arms. And so those are something that will attach to your desk and they have a ton of maneuverability so you can position them exactly where you like them, especially if you're looking at both. And then also if you are looking at both, you want to position them to where you're not having your head turned for a long period of time. At the end of the day, a ream of office paper, a couple of boxes, a book, whatever you've got to do to get your monitor up. It's easy to find things around the office that are going to be very effective at getting your monitor up. That's the most important thing. So when we set up your keyboard and your mouse and finding the right position on your workstation, the way we find this is we want to see you looking straight ahead with a shoulder relaxed, elbow, and everything is vertical. As you come forward, wherever that ends up with your hands, that's where we want your keyboard to be. So most commonly we see it as way too far here. We don't want to see this happening. So we want to see it very comfortable. We want to be here. We should be able to have relaxed shoulders and you should be able to type. When it comes to your mouse, a common mistake I see is people have the mouse way too far where you're reaching. This creates tension in the wrist, forearm, upper arm, and into the shoulder and even into the neck. So if we're seeing things like carpal tunnel or you have a joint issues that you're seeing, it's probably because you're overloading or putting too much stress on the chain overall. So you want to see that mouse be nice and close. So when we look at the position of your hand in relation to your mouse, so what I don't want to see is if you're using it and your wrist is cranked all the way to one side or the other, or if it's tipped too far back or too far forward, depending on the shape of your hand and the shape of your mouse. So we want to see that all be as neutral as possible. If that's an issue, you can't find a good way to do it, then we want to look at an ergonomic mouse, maybe a trackball, something that's a little bit easier for your wrist to handle. Next layer of this, if you have a standard desk that is not adjustable, this is why it's very common to have a keyboard tray. So when that tray pulls out, it gets you closer to this relaxed position and keeps everything here, and then you have a workspace up here. This is why I like keyboard trays. If you can have them, you can also keep your mouse down here where you're not doing this all day long. So easy, quick way to set it up. You want it as close as you can with your shoulders relaxed. That way we're not straining and creating bad posture. So let's talk about desk height. If you do have an adjustable desk, that is fantastic. You get to have a lot of flexibility there, but how do we know where it should be? And so what we want to look for is when you are seated properly in your chair, you want to watch and make sure that your forearms are parallel to the floor. So just like your upper legs, once they're parallel, then you know it's in a good spot. One of the most common mistakes that I see made when it comes to setting a height is people will get it too high because they want to have room for their legs or it's just uncomfortable. And so what we'll see is they go from the parallel to up here, which creates more problems for the wrist, and then this gets uncomfortable or you raise your shoulders. And now we're doing this, trying to get things going that way too. If you don't have an adjustable desk, we want to do the best we can. So parallel forearms is the goal. If you need to adjust your seat height, that's going to be the next part of that layer to do the best we can with what we have when it comes to adjusting your workstation. So to put it all together, what a good seated workstation is going to look like is we've got the chair properly adjusted to where your feet are flat on the floor. You've got your butt back in the chair. When we come up to the desk, your forearms are parallel to the floor and you've got your keyboard and your mouse nice and close where you're not reaching. And then your monitor is going to be where the middle is either horizontal or a little bit above that. And you've got everything set up to where it's here. So if you can get your workstation to the ideal setup, you're going to notice some changes in how well you feel throughout the day, but also it's going to pay dividends over the course of a career or even a lifetime when it comes to your overall health. So if you do have a sit-to-stand workstation, I want to go through how do we set this up so you can transition from being seated to standing and go back and forth throughout the day. Some of the things are going to be the same as when you're seated, you're just now standing. So when we set the height of you standing, we want forearms to be parallel. And when you set up your keyboard and your mouse, again, we want those in a rested shoulder position, very close. So it should look something like this. When it comes to the monitor, again, we want to be middle of the monitor, should be equal to your eye level or a little bit above it. So that way we're looking up. So overall, this is a much better way to get throughout your day and keep you healthy and keep your spine and posture better as well. So quick note about laptops. I get lots of questions. People travel and they have a laptop. The problem is the screen is attached to the computer. So how do you get your eye line and your monitor where you should have it? So there's two options here that you can do. One is you can get an external monitor, plug that in, get the monitor where you like it or where it needs to be, and then use the keyboard on your laptop. The other option is to get a laptop stand, get that part of the laptop high enough where you need it, and use an external keyboard and mouse. Either one are going to be much better than just living and working on your laptop because of what it does to our posture, and you're always looking down and it's hard on you. So as you transition to using a standing workstation, a consideration that we need to look at is actually what your feet are doing while you're standing as well. Depending on the surface that you're standing on is going to determine what kind of accommodations we need to make. If you're on concrete floors, or you're on something that's a concrete floor with a thin carpet over the top of it or a tile, you're more than likely going to want to incorporate an anti-fatigue mat to stand on throughout the day. Another thing to consider working at a standing workstation is something that you rest your feet on. Our bodies are designed to move and to have some wiggle room to them. So when you have something you can put your foot on, it's going to help with the fatigue of your muscles in your legs and your feet. And so being able to go back and forth and switch throughout the day also makes everything feel a lot better. A quick note on footwear, one of the things you want to try to avoid are things with heels. So especially like dress shoes that are going to have an elevated heel, either it's male or female, those are things we want to avoid when you're standing all day. So what I recommend is a good shoe that has plenty of room for your toes. So we call it a wide toe box. And then you want what's called a zero drop shoe. You want something that almost mimics a barefoot shoe while you stand. And as you transition to standing too, we want to try to work into it. So don't go from sitting for 6, 7, 8 hours a day to trying to stand for 6, 7 hours a day. Maybe do 20 minutes an hour and transition back and forth. I hope that these videos have been helpful, and if you have further questions or if you are interested in a full ergonomic customized evaluation of your workstation, just reach out to us and we would love to help.